Exalted Entertainment Radio. This is Kiera D, and I got my hubby on the show with me. What's up, baby?
Hey, what's going on?
So, as you already know, we are talking about effectively communicating with your significant other. So, in this case, you're whispering sweet somethings, okay? You're not whispering sweet nothings. This time, you're going to get somewhere. So, of course, we got to tackle that issue. You know, men and women, we speak two different languages for the most part. We have men who are able to understand each other, but then, on the other hand, females, we're able to understand each other because we are made up in two completely different ways. And so that's why I felt like it was necessary for us to touch on this subject, because you have a lot of couples who just don't understand each other, and it's not necessarily genetics, but it's the makeup, our natural makeup, our chemistry, how we're made. And so first and foremost, I believe that this show is going to help you to really, fellas, I believe this is going to really help you to really understand your girl, your wife, your boo thing. And fellas, same for you. I think it's going to help you to really understand. One thing I've learned over time is it's very important, very, very, very important that a man feels respected and honored in his relationship. That's one of the top relationship needs, is to feel honored and respected. And then women, on the other hand, we need to feel secure. And so I'm gonna let my husband talk on that a little bit, just the way to make a woman feel secure.
Well, in order to make a woman feel secure, I think first and foremost is just being upfront and honest. You know, whether you made a mistake or not, I think that you just being like an open book. Number one, lets the woman know that she can trust her spouse, you know, or the gentleman that's, you know, getting ready to become her spouse. She can trust him, you know. So that openness, I think, is paramount. Number one, it builds trust automatically.
All right. How about the other ways? You know, you got emotional, spiritual, and financially. I know y'all talked about that once upon a time. Can you expound on it a little bit?
From the standpoint of
the three ways, like how is it that you make a woman feel through financially, feel secure through finance?
Okay, secure through finances. We touched on that, I think, last broadcast. When the woman knows that you're bringing home a check, and you bring home a whole check, you know, she knows that I can depend on the fact that my man is going to work, he's coming back, and I can see the fruits of the labor. I don't have to ask him about it. You know, money's brought in. That allows a woman to be at ease, because a lot of times, you know, just culturally wise, the woman was the one taking care of the house. And so she's looking at, do I have the resources I need to take care of the house, take care of children, you know, children in the picture, things like that. Emotionally, the man needs to be the most stable one, in my opinion, in a relationship, because everything goes through the man. When you look at a household, the characteristics of a household, you know, from the kids on down, a lot of that reflects off of whatever I believe the man is doing or not doing in the household. I believe that when you see a well-behaved household, you know, when the kids go out and the kids are well-behaved and everybody's looking nice and decent and clean and well-groomed, I think that speaks definitely on top of the man, and the man setting the tone. And how that make a woman feel secure, you know, regardless if it's sunny days or stormy weather. If that man is secure in who he is in God, and if he's stable, I think that gives a lot of peace to the situation that a woman's looking for.
Well, also, not only that, but we as women sometimes deal with a lot of insecurities in terms of our emotions. And so that's why it's good to have a man who's emotionally stable and secure in who he is, because it helps us to balance out as women. You know, ladies, it is let's just blame it on Eve, but we have our Eve moments every month. And so sometimes, you know, you would see women who are just going off on the deep end. They're just emotions all over the place. Everything's bothering them. Everything's frustrating them. But if you have that man that is grounded, that is rooted, and who's very emotionally stable, then that balances everything out. But let's talk a little bit about the spiritual security.
Spiritual security as it relates to communicating to your spouse. Well, number one, I think the man sets the tone. The man sets the tone in the whole culture of the relationship, and he's got to be the one. I believe that in a situation, the man of the house should never be outdone spiritually by his wife. She should be watching and following suit. You know, we're looking at it, you know, from the standpoint of our Christian beliefs and what we believe as according to the Bible, you know, and living our lives accordingly. There's no way that my wife should be able to out worship me, out pray me, you know, out study me or anything like that, because again, the household has the man's last name, not the wife's. And I think how this all works with communication, it's like, well, the woman knows where the woman can communicate to the children, which most often happens. Everybody knows where we're going. Everybody knows what's acceptable in the house and what is not. You know, so when it comes to spiritual security, the man leading out and the man being secure, the man being strong in his faith, in the word, that man being accountable, sets the tone for his whole household. The household knows what's acceptable in it and what's not. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's good. That's good. One thing I wanted to bring up is, you know, even how you mentioned with the mother knowing how to dictate things to the kids. It's important that parents, if you have kids involved, it's really important for your communication to be on one accord, because if you are not on the same page, I promise you that can cause so much division and strife that it causes your kids to turn you against each other. You have to be very careful with that, because children, they're very crafty in their ways, and they know if daddy says no, then they can go to mommy and mommy will say yes. Or sometimes it's even the simplest things as far as what they're going to wear. You have to be on the same page, because if they know mommy don't usually like that or daddy don't usually like certain things, all they got to do is say that to the other parent that is opposed to it, and or the other parent that's usually open to whatever the item might be or whatever, and that parent will more than likely say yes and go for it. And then all of a sudden your child done used the whole situation to manipulate it to their advantage. And so you have to be very careful even in those instances.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. You know, I definitely think that's true. You know, the parents need to be a united front when it comes to the kids, because kids are born, we're all born, you know, with that evil on the inside that wants to, you know, have his and her way, her will, you know, and his and her rights at any cost by any means necessary. And, you know, sad to say, your children, even at, you know, we got 3-year-old and a 9-month-old, he's going on a year. Check it out. You know, we see that these tendencies are already in them. So, you know, I think it's important to have a united front, you know, against the kids, against things like that. So you're not doing a lot of unnecessary, immature infighting, because that, you know, that's doing nothing but tearing down a relationship.
Let's talk about this 3-year-old just a tad bit, though. And parents, you would really get where I'm coming from if you have kids that's young like us. But our 3-year-old, she knows that she can get whatever she wants out of Pawpaw. So more than likely, she's going to go ask Pawpaw for some candy when she know mommy and daddy's going to say no early in the morning, or if it's too late in the evening, mommy and daddy's not going to allow her to have that. She could be, and then Pawpaw, he'll allow it. But on the flip side, Nana, she doesn't go for all of that. Nana is more so, on the same page with mom and daddy. And so we also have to be mindful of those relationships too, knowing how our child operates when it comes to the grandparents, because that in itself, that teaches the child, hey, you know what? I can work this situation to my advantage and I can get my way. I can have what I want. And so again, being on the same page with everybody, being on the same page with your significant other, with your parents, or whoever might be your caregivers, you have the right to be able to dictate which direction you want the relationship to go, or which direction you want your child to go, just by communicating with each other. And even though my daughter might be able to get candy out of grandpa at certain times of the day, she knows Papa give it to her, but Papa will tell her, you can't eat it until tomorrow, or you can't eat it until mommy or daddy says so, because those are the rules that we set in place. And so again, if you want to keep communication smooth, stay on the same page. And now the other point I wanted to bring to your attention is the fact that it's important to women that their voices are heard in a relationship. If a woman does not feel like she's heard in a relationship, then 9 times out of 10, she will close down. And that's what you do not want. If she feels like she has to go talk to her girlfriends about everything, that's going to make it harder for her to respect you as a man. Now, again, let's go back to the beginning. We said respect is the ultimate relationship need for a man. But if a woman does not feel like her voice, her opinion is valued, she will close down, and it's going to make it harder for her to respect you. That's not saying she's not going to respect you, but it's going to make it more challenging for her.
Yeah, on that note, I just say it's about track record. You know, looking at what you're doing. You know, can your spouse look back and say, you know, as I look over his or her track record, that they always made sound decisions. You know, they never got upset, because the person who really gets upset probably has some deeper seated issues. So, you know, I think that's just part of what it is, number one.
Not only that, you know, fellas, it's important to honor your word. A man that honors his word is definitely worthy of honor. Okay, if you honor your word, you tell your wife you're going to do something, you're going to be somewhere, I promise you, she will praise you to the moon and back if you do what you said you're going to do. And she will be happy. A lot of men talk about how women nag, and that's one way that you can kind of alleviate some of the nagging, is by keeping your word and following through, being consistent in character. Double standards, you're going to run into issue. But if you're consistent in your character and everything that you say and do around your house and out in public, she's going to honor and respect you, and she's going to esteem you even further. Why? Because she believes you. She believes in you. She knows that you're capable of carrying out the task that you set out to do. So on that note, just make sure you are staying consistent, you're staying faithful, and you're going to get the respect and honor that you desire in your relationship. Now, ladies, you are not off the hook. Again, like, in case you did not listen in last week, we talked a little bit about nagging. And one thing women have really bad is to nag. If something's not done by X amount of time, OMG, we are nagging. We got the sister girl neck roll going on. We're going off. And it is not a pretty sight. Sometimes, ladies, it's best just to say, as I say, snap. Say nothing and pray. It is in your best interest to say nothing and pray, because a gentle spirit is what will win him over, is what will reach him and help you all to have a lot more peace in your home. It'll help your relationship to be a lot more peaceful. And so if you are able to just zip it up, you don't have to give a rebuttal in every situation. You don't have to have an opinion for everything. But if you could just zip it up and say nothing and pray, yes, your man will love you to the moon and back as well, okay? And so in these instances, you have to be mindful that, you know, you cannot tear him down. A wise woman builds her house. So when the going gets tough, and when you really just, you don't want to when you really just want to tear him down, close your mouth. Say nothing and pray, and then think about those gracious words that you can give to build him up and help him to be the person that you desire, help him to be the husband or the spouse that you desire to be by building him up and encouraging him. And that's going to help you all.
You on the road with that one.
Okay, all right. And so, as I said, you have to make sure you continue to build each other up. One thing I realized that is general across the board is when a man gets home from work or when he's just getting in the door, he does not want to be bombarded with questions. He does not want to be immediately rushed with a whole bunch of conversation. Give him a moment just to chill out. Give him a moment to clear his mind or whatever, because men, they deal with things from a whole different perspective than women. Men, they need to sit down to clear their head and just to de-stress or detox. Women, we on the other side, on the other end, we tend to sit there and think about situations all day, and that's how we distress. Like, we just sit there and think about whatever the problems are, and that's normal to us. It's comfortable to us. But men, they need that space. So ladies, give your man that space that he needs. And fellas, also make sure you open up the door for her to talk. Once you get your time to yourself, give her the opportunity to talk about what's important, what's some things that might be bothering her. Give her the opportunity to talk about the finances or whatever. Open that door, because if every time she brings those issues to you and it's a problem or she feels like there's some friction going on, she's probably going to calm down on bringing it to you, but then she's holding it all in, and it might get to the point of frustration. So you want to make sure you open up that door of communication so that she can express those concerns with you, so she could talk about what might be going on with the kids or some things that's been bothering her that you might be doing. And ladies, if you do that, again, don't tear him down. If it's something that he's not doing right, let him know what he is doing right, because it's so easy for us to focus on the negativity. But you gotta be strategic in how you address it. So, of course, you got to tell him what he's doing right before you tell him everything that he's doing wrong. And don't just dump it all on him at one time either. Because a man, again, he needs to be honored and respected. So if you just dumping it on him, it can seem like you're trying to tear him down.
And nobody wants to just hear the bad news as soon as they walk in the door. They've heard it all day in the break room, on the TV channels. You know, they see it all day on Facebook and social media. They hear about it on the radio. So bad news is something that's in starting a relationship. You know, bad news, nobody wants to hear that, so it's just giving you points and tips, when they come in, whether they're male or female, everybody likes to come in, kick their feet up for a second and just kind of de-stress, from the day. It's very important. And if you're going to build this communication piece, it's knowing when and kind of being able to discern and figure out when a person is relaxed and is ready to move into, more serious family conversation, things like that.
Also, just something to keep in mind, fellas, when your communication is smooth, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get more brownie points in the bedroom. Just keeping it 100, that's going to help you to score in the bedroom a lot more often, because she feels connected to you. Women, we're emotional. We're relational creatures. We like to relate. We like to know, how was your day? We like to know the details. Okay, if something was bothering you today, if you didn't feel too sure about something, we like to know that. We like to know how that meeting went that you had with somebody, or your business plan, or whatever it might be. If you had an issue on the job, we like to know those details that might seem so minor to you, but it's still giving us the opportunity to connect with you. Now, ladies, on the other side, men, they connect through activities. Women, we connect relationally, but men, they have a way of connecting through activities. If you look at how males relate to each other, 9 times out of 10, it's over sports or them doing something together. And that's how they connect. Women, we could just sit down on the couch and be good. We could have a whole conversation and say we had a good time just by sitting on the couch. But with men, they have to engage themselves in something. And so don't expect the man just to meet your needs without you meeting his needs. Make sure you make it a point to get engaged with his needs, as far as going out to a sports game or watching football or something with them. Work out with them, because that's the way they connect with each other, and that's the way you can connect with him as well. But just keep in mind that if you want to be effective with each other, you have to understand what those pressure points are. Women, we're wired so differently than men. We don't have a way of responding to major situations any different than minor situations. Whereas men, they respond to major situations in such a different way than minor situations. What's a minor situation? Basically something that they can change, something that they can do something about. A major situation is something that's out of their control. Women, we're on the other hand, if it's something out of our control or if it's something in our control, we're 9 times out of 10 going to respond the exact same way that we would with any other situation. If it's going to stress us out, it's going to stress us out. We might have a whole bunch of questions, but our response levels does not differ very much from that of a minor situation to a major situation. But these are just a few pointers that we wanted to bring to you. And of course, we are getting short here on time, but we just want to help you to get to that point where you're effectively communicating with your significant other, where you understand each other. Fellas, just remember, your girl needs to talk. And I know you don't like to hear those words, so don't make her have to say it. We need to talk. No, just open up that door for her. Open up the door of communication for her to say what she needs to say, to be able to get stuff out of her chest. Because, there's several ways to communicate. There's verbal communication, nonverbal communication. You could look at somebody's gestures. You kind of feel what they're dealing with. And if something doesn't feel right, or you getting the vibe that maybe he or she is upset, open up the door to talk about it. But you don't have to argue. And when you're getting ready to have a deep discussion, give each other that space to voice what they have to say without interrupting each other. But you got to also be mindful that you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot ramble on forever, because then the other party can get upset too. And so just keep these things in mind. Like when you having differences, if things get too heated, take a time out, come back and talk about it later. And then also make sure you always apologize. Be quick to apologize. Don't go to bed mad at each other, because you don't want it to get to the point where if one of you was to leave this earth today, you never had a chance to say, I'm sorry. You never had a chance to apologize to each other. Don't fight over the small stuff. Discuss the small things, but don't allow it to divide you. Okay? Again, my name is Kiara D. And
it's your boy A.T.
We thank you all so much for tuning in to The Love Factor. Make sure you join us next week, same time, same place. You know what it is. It's The Love Factor right here on Exalted Entertainment Radio.